Hello, welcome to our 9th lesson on religion, peace and conflict. This lesson is all about pacifism and peacemaking. Today we're thinking about what a pacifist is, what peacemaking is, and we're going to evaluate whether or not Christians should be supporters of just war theory or pacifism. Your need to know today is this, is that Christians are either pacifists and therefore anti-war, or they believe that war can be a necessary evil and they would support just wars. But all Christians should be peacemakers. Let's dive on in. So let's start with this word pacifist. Now, if you're a pacifist, that means that you are anti-violence of all types, that you wouldn't believe that violence is ever an acceptable way to sort out an issue. Pacifists do range from some who are completely anti-war to those who wouldn't even watch a boxing match or a violent sport, or, as you can see from this example here, play a game like Fortnite, which involves killing as part of their leisure time activities. Be helpful to look back on a couple of things we've already learned that kind of underpin this teaching. And just the first thing to point out to you guys is that when you meet Christians, you'll generally find that they're either supporters of just war theory or they're pacifists. So either they think that war can sometimes be used as a necessary evil if it's the last resort and it's going to solve a problem and stop a greater evil from occurring, or they would say that violence is never acceptable. When we did our lesson on holy war, we looked at all of the teachings of Jesus which suggest that he was a pacifist. Things like love your neighbor, turn the other cheek, and we looked at his death on the cross, that submissive death, which basically was his greatest victory. It wasn't through fighting a battle, but it was through giving up his own life. And so many Christians would consider Jesus to be a pacifist, and that's one of the main reasons why they would consider themselves to be pacifists as well, and think that that is the right way to go when thinking about war. Now, just because someone is a pacifist, it doesn't mean that they don't love their country, and it doesn't mean that they're not brave. During the World Wars, if you refused to fight because of your personal beliefs as a pacifist, you were known as a conscientious objector. Now, often, if that was you and that was your choice, you were treated very poorly, potentially as a coward and someone who didn't love their country. Now, it's interesting with hindsight to look back that actually it would have taken an enormous amount of bravery for some people to come forward to say, actually, I'm not going to fight because I don't believe that violence is right. Now, there were some amazing stories, and there still are today, of people who are pacifists but who have shown enormous acts of bravery during world wars and wars today. So if we think back to World War II, for example, there's a picture here of a Quaker. So the Quakers in World War II set up the Friends Ambulance Service, and they did some extraordinary things, including driving during the Blitz an ambulance with their lights turned off to any areas where they could hear bombs landing, so that they could get there and help people in need. So often a pacifist might do something like become a medic to help out as part of a war effort, even though they're not actually fighting. They're doing their bit and they're doing something loving that's going to support their fellow countrymen. Now, some people who are pacifists today would say that pacifism is really the only option now. In a world where we have got huge amounts of nuclear weapons, and you can watch the lesson if you haven't already on WMDs and nuclear weapons, the amount of violence that these would cause to use these to kill as many people as they can and to destroy the environment like they do. Many people would say, well, pacifism's our only option now, because now we've got nuclear threats in the world. War is not an option anymore, and so pacifism is really the only choice. Jesus, in his teaching, in his Sermon on the Mount, he said something really memorable, which is, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." Now, whether a Christian believes in just war theory or whether they are a pacifist, for every Christian, the end goal should be peace. All Christians should be working for peace in this world. They should be peacemakers. Pacifists might say, you know, Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, therefore it's not right to fight. And people who support just war theory might say, well, Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, so it's right to fight this war because our end goal is peace, and this is the only way we're going to get it. So if we go back now, right to the start of this topic, we looked at 4 key concepts. Let's just go back to them briefly now. So peace, blessed are the peacemakers, they will be called the children of God. This is such an important thing for pacifists, and they think that peaceful ways of doing diplomacy and sorting out issues are the only way to go. Justice. When it comes to peacemaking, sometimes justice has to be done in order for that peace to be realized. And often for some people, before they can move to a point of forgiveness, there needs to be justice put in place so that forgiveness can take place then. And then that final bit there of reconciliation, of once a conflict has occurred, sorting out the justice, making sure that people are treated fairly, forgiveness, pardoning someone for the wrong that they have done, and then coming back together again to be reconciled. And that quote again from Jesus, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Reconciliation is so important in Christianity. So now it's time for you to check your understanding, pause the video here, have your best go at these guys, and then when you're ready, unpause it and we can talk about the answers. Okay, let's look at some of the answers to these questions. So explain the difference between peace, pacifism, and peacemaking. So peace it's the absence of war, but it's also harmony. So communities that are together and living harmoniously. Pacifism is being anti-war. It's disagreeing with violence of any kind, especially to solve a dispute. Peacemaking is working for peace in this world, and there's different ways of doing that. So a pacifist might support their country in a war by being a medic, by helping those in need, by donating money to charity who are helping to support those who have been harmed by war. They might help by praying, and as we talked about in that previous lesson, praying and giving their time and their money to help people in need. It could be argued that all Christians should be peacemakers because Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, they will be called the children of God. We also know that peace and reconciliation is right at the heart of Christianity, that reconciliation with God and that reconciliation with each other. Complete the teaching of Jesus, blessed are the peacemakers. In your opinion, which is the correct response to the topic of warfare, pacifism or just war theory? And the reason I've put this in, guys, is because when you get a 12 marker in your exam, it's likely that no matter how it's worded, pacifism and just war are going to be the two sides that you'll want to consider when you're thinking about those 12 mark point of views. But this one is your opinion. And this last one is your opinion too. Pacifism is an impossible dream. Do you think it's possible to live in a world where everyone is a pacifist? Do you think that all problems can be sorted out without violence? Or do you think there is a time and a place for violence? Do you think, on another note, things like boxing and other sports that involve violence should be allowed to go ahead? Or do you think, like people who say we're in a time now because of nukes, that we have moved past that perhaps those sports have seen their day as well? Final extension there, do research these guys, look up Gandhi, look up Dietrich Bonhoeffer, look at the Dalai Lama and see what do they have to say about peace and pacifism and how can that help you with your understanding of this topic. So that brings us to the end of the lesson. So let's just go back to our need to know. You need to know that Christians are either pacifist, and so they're anti-war, or they think that war can be a necessary evil, and so they support just war theory. But either way, all Christians should be peacemakers. Thanks for watching. See you next time.